Literacy Feed is a monthly webcast from Dr. Lee Hall and Dr. Peggy Symington.
It's May 1st. Welcome to the first ever Literacy Feed webcast. It's a fast-paced webcast with literacy news and updates with Dr. Lee Hall and myself, Dr. Peggy Symington, will comment on not just scholarly literature, but also things we're reading on blogs, Twitter, social media, etc. Our next webcast is June 1st. 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and our blogs. That information will be posted below the recording. I've been reading the journals, the main flagship journals, International Literacy Association, National Council Teachers of English, LRA journals. I actually get the print journals. I'm seeing themes like Common Core is a huge one. Language Arts has this big Part 2 critique of Common Core, lots of articles on the usual sort of text, vocabulary, disciplinary literacies, always ongoing themes. So it's great to see that research continue. And then I'm happy also to see a lot of digital literacy research. I think it's still an unexplored area. There's lots of articles, but things like transmedia, youth participating in storytelling. It's nice to see a very student-centered and youth-centered perspective, hearing voices from youth themselves. But what I'm really seeing and I'm excited about, and I want to share about just for a minute, is this idea for this call to collaboration. And the call to collaboration between real teachers out there in the real world and those of us in the ivory towers is an ongoing call. And I'll just mention this recent article. It's in Research in the Teaching of English, and we'll post the link. And it's from two heavyweights in our field, Judith Langer and Arthur Appleby. Arthur Appleby just passed away last year. I did not know that. Their ideas here really focus on big themes like we continue to be methodologically narrow. Oh, the name of this is English Research from 1984 to 2015. And they talk about things that have changed, like they say there's been a lot of progress and the idea of collaboration and teachers as researchers. That wasn't always the case. There wasn't always a lot of collaboration between teachers and researchers. So I feel like this is a really important piece that I hope people can check out. And it's in February, RTE, Research in the Teaching of English. So I just want to mention that article. Mention too in my recap, this idea from Journal of Adolescent and Adult Literacy, and this is March, April. Mark Conley writes this piece about collaboration. We hear his call for collaboration that, it's not always there. He talks in this piece about his own personal growth in working with schools and how it was humbling. Like the anecdote he uses is when he went to Nome, Alaska, and he was this outsider. Do you know this part of his story?
Yeah, I've read it.
It's great, yeah. And so then he went there and they're like, yeah, you think you're an expert. And it was so different, and he hadn't considered culture. And so just how that helped him to grow as a researcher. I think he's a great role model in that regard. So I hope people can read that piece. I want to also say welcome to the new editorship for JAWL. Outgoing editors are Emily Skinner and Margaret Haygood. As of today, the new editorship team is Kelly Chandler Olcott and Kathy Hinchman, so welcome to them. A couple things sort of beyond the journals. So not all of our information is going to come from journals. So P. David Pearson posted a great piece in the San Francisco Chronicle. Did you see this? I'll just mention the title in a sentence. He wrote, after his wife passed, he shared on Facebook news, and he and his family, his children, had over 250 people celebrate her life on Facebook. So I thought that was amazing. What do you think about that?
It was a really nice piece to read. It was really touching to see how they were able to use something like Facebook to connect with people that were able to remember his wife and share memories of her. I thought it was really nice.
Yeah, that's encouraging and uplifting. He says people think social media is cold, but he wrote, but social media has virtues too, breadth of community, immediacy of connection, and momentum that can engage us, and a sudden outpouring of feeling and words. So I love that he wrote that in the San Francisco Chronicle. That's important. He's to me, the biggest literacy scholar of them all, still living, So good model for us. What did you want to share about, what are you seeing and reading?
So I picked just a couple of things to share, and the first one is a news article. It's about six months old, I think, on the word gap. And so I identified this because it's something that comes up when I work with teachers a lot, in terms of this argument that students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds are going to start school with a knowledge of fewer words, right? Their vocabulary might be smaller than those students from middle and upper socioeconomic backgrounds. I think we're all aware of the argument that kids from low socioeconomic backgrounds, not always, but tend to have limited exposure to books, may not be as exposed to as many conversations, or that the conversations that they have with adults or older siblings, older children, might not have as much of a variety of words in them as students that come from middle and upper class backgrounds. There's been critiques, and this article talks about critiquing the research on that and how we view students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. I didn't want to highlight that so much, but what I wanted to really highlight was what I think is maybe, an equally or more important point of how our understandings about the word gap play out for kids in school when we're looking at them through a deficit lens. And so what this author highlighted that I think continues to be a problem, it's not new, but it just continues to be a problem, is that through this deficit lens, right, students from low income backgrounds, first of all, we make this assumption about them that they're going to have a limited vocabulary, or that they might not have as much exposure to books, which may or may not be true. But then they enter school, and it's going to be this very factory-like setting where they're really not going to have a number of rich experiences that are going to give them the kinds of experiences that they need with text and with just talking to their peers and talking to their teachers in a variety of ways. But instead is going to be focused on worksheets, on drill and kill, on learning by rote memorization, and that in some cases, what we've done is we've taken our assumed understanding that there's this word gap problem, and then we have structured and created instruction that is so zeroed in and centered on building word knowledge in a way that's actually detrimental, because these kids end up not getting enough exposure to a variety of things. And so, the article is not arguing that teachers shouldn't work on expanding vocabulary, because I think that's the job of any teacher for any student at any age. But really what was interesting to me was how it pushed on thinking about how we go about doing it and how we emphasize what's important in our instruction. So I brought that up. I know, Peggy, you work a lot with elementary school teachers, right? So do you see this coming up as an issue that you discuss?
Yeah, like you said, it seems like people think it's a quick fix. If we just stop the bleeding with the vocabulary, it's enough, and it's not the only thing. And it made me think of the Mark Conley article or commentary, because he's like, in the past 30 years, I've seen interventions come and go, and interventions are not enough. And actually this article, reading the same article you just mentioned, made me think of this book by Catherine Snow and colleagues, and it's called Is Literacy Enough? Mm-hmm. And they do this like longitudinal study, which I think is they're hugely important to show from preschool through adulthood. Literacy intervention isn't enough sometimes if students have other competing factors like poverty.
Right.
Things that are just challenging, that this intervention program isn't going to be a quick fix.
Right.
That's my perspective.
And then the last thing that I picked, I love reading a variety of blogs. And so I highlighted one of my favorite ones, which I found last year, called the Teched Up Teacher. And it's tech and ideas for the 21st century classroom. And so like his latest post, which was just a few days ago, was teaching entrepreneurship through the for-profit maker space. And so when you look at something like that, you might think, what does this have to do with literacy? Why are you highlighting it? But I actually, when I read this, it made me realize that, we need to be talking about maker spaces and what it means for literacy instruction and how we develop literacy through maker spaces, in the courses that I teach. And so I immediately got it on my syllabus for the fall. But There's a number of things on the site. So it's not just ed tech. Like he has a whole series on how you can gamify your classroom, and he walks through step by step by step. Here's how he does it. He breaks things down very nicely for you. So what I would encourage you to do if you're looking through this website is if you came to the website because you were interested in literacy, and when you look at it, it's not going to be in your face about reading and writing. So what you have to do is dig into it and think about, how does this promote literacy? What are the kinds of reading and writing practices that my students need to engage with the things that he's talking about here? And he does a great job of promoting digital literacies and giving great examples of how you can do that in your classroom in ways that are really unique and different. So that's why I put that here. He's one of my favorite bloggers.
Oh, yeah, it's so important. Our field is so interdisciplinary that when we can cross-pollinate across fields, I think it's great.
And he is also, I want to add somebody, like I've reached out to him when I read his whole series on gamification because I wanted to apply some of those ideas to my own teaching. He was happy to Skype with me. We Skyped for, I don't know, 30 minutes, 60 minutes so I could ask him questions. So he's really approachable if you read something in there and you want to talk to him. His email's on the blog, and I would just shoot him an email.
That's great. So he's open.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, I'm going to check it out, and we'll put all these links in the bottom of this recording. Do you have any other thoughts you want to say?
No, that's it, I think.
So this recording will be posted on our blogs. Again, follow us on Twitter. Check out our YouTube channels. If any of you or other literacy educators have any newsletters that we can subscribe to and follow so we can share your information in our future webcast, contact us and we'll follow you. So,
yeah, sounds good.
yeah, thanks.